Hello and happy whatever day it is that you're choosing to watch this. I do want to thank Miss Jones, Miss Brown, and Miss Maisie for their lessons last week. I think they all did an excellent job. As we continue on with this lesson, each off week, I'm going to kind of focus on a part of lesson planning or lesson delivery. And then when we come back in the spring, we will specifically focus on one or two of those things the next time you guys teach. So this week I want to look at student engagement and how to keep your students engaged.
Okay, babe, we have a lot to do. We gotta pick out the florals, we have to pick out the color scheme, we have to pick out a band. I need your help.
All right, I have been doing some looking, and I kind of like that color.
Oh,
What do you
not that kind of engagement. But since I brought it up, I actually got proposed to at the end of a 5K at the finish line. My husband convinced me to run a race with him, or he convinced me that he would run a race. He's not the runner I am. And when we crossed the finish line, I had some friends and family there that held up a sign, and I, of course, said yes, and the rest is history. Okay, maybe you zoned up and you don't care about that story, but that is one way to get students engaged, is to talk about what they are interested in. And so if I shared that story with you guys in class, I might then ask, do any of you have a cool engagement story? Do you know how your parents got engaged? Or do you have an older sibling? And that's a way to engage students. You have to get them interested. And on top of that, you as the teacher need to be interested, and you need to be passionate about what you're teaching, because your students are going to feed off of that. And so when you're teaching in your class, if you see students paying attention, does that mean that they're engaged? Engagement can be defined as a level of attention and a commitment that students have in a lesson. For years, classroom engagement was just thought to be compliance, right? So if they're sitting there and they're taking notes and they're not interrupting you, then they must be learning. As a teacher, when I'm talking and my class is really silent, to me, that doesn't mean they're engaged. Yes, they might be following my rules, but are they actually learning? And so when you're thinking of engagement, you have to really look deeper than just, are they quiet or are they paying attention? Sometimes I or students, when they're the quietest, it's when they're not listening at all. And I got to keep it real with you. That is one of the things I'm missing the most right now with this hybrid schedule. But we're going to keep getting through this and making the most of it. And I am so incredibly happy that you have been having that opportunity with your lab to do that in-person learning. And I am psyched that we get to have those Wednesdays together, and I can watch you guys interacting and teaching each other. All right, let's take a quick look at a short video talking about the levels of engagement.
If you watch this scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you'll notice that even in the midst of a boring lesson, none of the students are actually misbehaving. They're quiet. Nobody's tossing spitballs or playing those paper football games or checking their cell phones because, well, the cell phones back then were the size of a brick. Remember the Zach Morris phone. But most of the students are essentially following the rules. They aren't engaged. But what are they? Well, some seem to be retreating. A few seem to be playing the game of school, but nobody is actually committed to the learning. Well, here's where Schlechty's levels of engagement becomes helpful. It provides a useful framework for thinking about what it means for students to be genuinely engaged in their learning. Schlechty defines it this way. Engagement is active. It requires the students to be attentive as well as in attendance. It requires students to be committed to the task and find some inherent value in what he or she is being asked to do. The engaged student not only does the task assigned, but also does the task with enthusiasm and diligence. In 2002, Philip Schlechty developed a framework for thinking about student engagement based on two core ideas of attention and commitment. At the bottom you have rebellion, which involves diverted attention and no commitment to the task. This is the student who seems to be acting out and causing disruptions, and as a result, they fail to learn from the task. Next, you have retreatism with no attention and no commitment. Unlike the rebellion, this student in retreat is not actively disrupting the learning, but instead seems to be kind of checked out. This student is often distracted and emotionally withdrawn from the task, and as a result, this student learns little or nothing from the task. At the next level, you have ritual compliance. This involves both low attention and low commitment. Unlike retreatism, a ritually compliant student doesn't completely check out, but instead is doing the bare minimum to avoid confrontation. This student will learn at a low level, and the task will not be retained over time. Next is strategic compliance. Often this looks like engagement because the student might be performing at a high level, but it's not. Here the student has high attention on the task but low commitment to what he or she is doing. This is the student who is playing the game of school, focused on things like grades, parental approval, rewards, and class rank. But the learning isn't intrinsically rewarding, and as a result, this student will often learn at a high level but fails to retain the learning over time or transfer it to a new context. And then finally, you have engagement. This requires both high attention and high commitment. Here, a student completely buys in out of a strong sense of intrinsic motivation, and this includes meaning and choice and challenge. This student will continue focusing even when the task gets more complex and challenging, and often they're going to choose to learn even when it is ungraded. This student will learn at a deep level, and the transfer will continue to new contexts. And this is why it's important that we as teachers focus on how to make the subject intrinsically engaging. And this happens when we tap into student curiosity and creativity and purpose. And when this happens, students are more likely to grow into passionate, lifelong learners.
So I hope this helps. I know I've said this before, but as a teacher, you are going to be continuously changing the way that you deliver information. I've been teaching American government for 6 years at CTEC, and there have never been 2 classes in a row that I've delivered my content the exact same way. And so I'm constantly thinking of ways that I can redo the way that I deliver material to keep my ever-changing students engaged. As a reminder, next week, juniors are only in the building on Monday, and I am giving you the week off of our seminar class. When we return the week following Thanksgiving, that Tuesday is actually the 1st of December, and then that Wednesday, Madison, Michelle, and Emily will be teaching. So the 3 of you, please be sure to have your materials ready that Monday. If you would like to reach out to me before then, that's okay too. I will be seeing you all next Monday for academic support, and so I can absolutely work with you then as well. Have a great break. Enjoy the time off. Hopefully the weather cooperates for us.